Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to ZTV Live. Today is Wednesday, August 4th, 2021, and I'm so happy to have you joining us tonight for a special episode on Huntley Meadows Park here in Alexandria and its recent visitor that had everybody going a little all abuzz for it, the Roseate Spoonbill. Before we get there, though, and I bring on my special guest tonight, I want to let everybody know that the Zebra August edition just hit newsstands on Monday, and we're talking about a lot of local farmers markets here. I mean, I believe there's a farmers market that you can go to 5 days a week here in Alexandria, which is fantastic. And also here's obviously our story about the spoonbill, and that's who we're going to be talking about tonight. That photograph was taken by our own Kelly McConomy, and we have some very special guests tonight. So without further ado, I'm going to bring them all on. Hi, everybody. Welcome to ZTV Live.
Well,
Thank you all for joining us tonight. And I know that everybody can see your names there and your titles. But why don't we start with you, Karen, and we'll kind of go around and just let us know your name and your title, what you do.
Great. Thank you, Susan. My name is Karen Sheffield, and I am the park manager at Huntley Meadows Park.
Excellent. Jane?
I'm Jane Gamble. I actually am a Foreign Service Officer with the Department of State, but in my spare time, I'm an amateur photographer and naturalist.
Excellent. Larry?
hi, I'm Larry Cartwright. I'm a park volunteer. I've been coordinator of the Bluebird Nest Box program since 2000. I do surveys there and also the compiler of the DC Christmas bird count, among other things.
Excellent. And Matt?
Hi, I'm Matt Felprin. I'm a roving naturalist here in Northern Virginia, and I lead environmental education and recreation programming throughout the region, including kayak tours, bird walks, astronomy programs, you name it.
Wow, fantastic. Well, thank you all for coming and bringing your expertise to us bird watchers here on ZTV Live. We couldn't help but notice, I noticed the arrival of the Roseate Spoonbill. I believe it was at the very end of June at Huntley Meadows Park, and I follow a group on Facebook called the Huntley Meadows Park Photographers, and that is not really affiliated with the park itself, but a lot of photographers are at the park all the time. I mean, you see beautiful equipment, and no more so when the Roseate Spoonbill arrived. It was really obviously immediately obvious that this was a big deal. Karen, were you surprised in your office that I mean, how were you first alerted to the fact that the spoonbill had arrived?
Yes, it was extremely exciting to hear of the Roseate Spoonbill, and we've had a few other rare visitors to the park. So when we hear of it, um, we don't discard it offhand because we do get some rogue visitors that come, and there was great excitement to try to go out and see the spoonbill.
It really was. And I don't have a picture of it, but I know that people have seen photographs of just photographers lining all the way along that boardwalk with lenses that are bigger than a baseball bat, and I mean just amazing equipment out there. And my first thought was, gosh, I hope nobody is getting pushed into the water with their camera. Of course, it's not super deep there, so it would be fine. But you had told me that didn't really happen. But were you surprised at how long the spoonbill ended up staying, and was then joined by two more, I believe?
That's correct. Yes, it was joined by two additional spoonbills, so that was an additional excitement as well. We were just thrilled to see the spoonbill come, but actually stay as long as it did. It really speaks volumes to the success of the wetland restoration project that took place at the park in 2014 to help restore the wetland habitat. And it's such a thrill to see the spoonbill's success and give all of the spoonbills a safe haven and a place to eat and spend some time before it needed to venture back south.
Right. Yep. Well, it is obviously a hospitable environment. Jane Gamble, I'm going to go to you next as a photographer. I will say, I think it was a few of your photographs that I first noticed on that photography group page on Facebook. And were you there? Did you just happen to be there, or did you see somebody else's photographs of the spoonbill? And while you're talking, Jane, if you don't mind, I'm going to show some of your photographs of the beautiful bird that we're talking about.
Oh, sure. So, and I was not there the first day that the roseate showed up. I also troll the Huntley Meadows photography group Facebook, and when I saw that somebody had seen a roseate, I just knew that I had to get out there immediately, and apparently a whole lot of other people when they saw that roseate thought the same thing, because the next day, oh golly, I mean, there were 100 people there to see it. It was such an event, and I think that also these arrivals of unique birds are also captured on a software site called iBird, and I think that eBird, and I think that so some of the people showing up to the park probably had gotten alerts from eBird, which is, I think, put out by Cornell Labs. I think it's monitored or managed by Cornell Lab of Ornithology. But anyways, once we all heard about the roseate, we had to see it, whether you were a photographer or a birder.
Yeah, right. I
it
mean,
was a draw.
these photographs are just stunning, really, Jane. They're just beautiful. This one, the light time of day. I mean, sometimes you get, lucky when Mother Nature helps you along a little bit, but the light through the wings is just captivating right there. Really just beautiful photographs in there. It is with
A really fun thing about this photo is it shows how the spoonbill, when it first showed up, it really liked to hang out with the great egrets. It's like it didn't want to be alone, and it really did seem to enjoy the company of the great egrets. It was often in company with them, and then when the other spoonies showed up, it was hanging out more with the other spoonbills. But that was kind of lovely to see how gregarious the birds are.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they all seem to get along. I know that there were a few tussles there of some of the animals kind of interacting with each other, sometimes friendly, sometimes a little bit less friendly. Some photographers really did a nice job of storytelling on their photographs, and with a narrative also explaining what was going on. Larry Cartwright, what did you think when you saw that spoonbill at Huntley Meadows?
Well, typically this time of year we have an event called post-breeding dispersal, and it's a lot of coastal breeders that show up. And actually, the spoonbills were the main characters, but we did have a supporting cast this year: white ibis, tricolored heron, snowy egret, little blue heron, and glossy ibis. These are coastal breeders that at the end of June, early July, will begin dispersing from their natal grounds. Many of them are juvenile. So it happens every year. We even had white-faced ibis one year from out west, which was the strangest thing up until now. The only thing, I don't know whether these birds dispersed from the Florida population or Louisiana, Texas population. They breed down there. And I've just heard recently that birds have showed up in Delaware and New Jersey, and it is possible that these inland birds are now beginning their long return trip, dispersing again to the coast and then maybe south. So yeah, the dispersal was not a surprise. The leading characters in this year were amazing, and they've been showed up in West Virginia, Ohio, and a few other places. So I don't know whether they had a good breeding year and there was lack of available food sources, or something's wrong in the NATO area that they had to disperse further than normal, or what. I don't know why, but I'm pretty sure it's just part of this phenomenon called post-breeding dispersal.
Gotcha.
Not a migration. Let's call it like a pre-migration. So
Right. I think that I had read somewhere, I think it was in an Audubon Society article, that actually I believe in 2008 they showed up in Minnesota. So it's
Yeah.
really not. It has been before that they have shown up in these northern climes, right?
Right. Yeah.
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 But it's still a thrill. And the spoonbill is
Yeah.
such an interesting looking bird with that long, long beak. Are there
Yeah.
any other? I guess I'm wondering, is that what? It's such a bizarre, I guess, evolutionary, result of having that long beak. Does it just help it
Yeah.
fish in the water, or?
Did you notice how they forage? They wave
Yeah,
it back and forth like that,
yeah.
and that they catch it in there. There's Roseate is the only breeding spoonbill that we have in the United States. There's other species around the world that forage exactly the same way. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's
You know
just
what?
that
Let me
unique,
take
yeah,
the it
evolutionary
it,
trait
it
that the great blue heron will grab the prey, and these guys kind of
yeah.
slosh around for it, if you
That's
will.
right.
So
I'm going to show a little video. We have a little video. It's about 2.5 minutes long. Yes, it is. It's like a vacuum cleaner. Kelly McConomy is commenting on, and thank goodness. And Kelly did point out a couple of things that there's in the zebra. There is a picture of all those photographers on the boardwalk. If you want to see it, it's really something. But let's go play the video. Again, speaking of Kelly McConomy, she got this beautiful footage of some of the beautiful birds at Huntley Meadows. Boy, that footage is just really, really beautiful. The light, and it's such a photogenic bird. I can't get over it. I can't imagine that the photographers just go crazy. Matt, have you ever seen a rare bird in an odd, location like that in your? I mean, I'm sure you have.
Yes, I have. A few of them I've found myself, and most of them were honestly just odd time of year, either early or late migration. I haven't found like a super rarity like this, though I'm sure it'll happen soon enough. I'm only 32, so there's plenty more years to go before I find something crazy. Um, Speaking of which, though, actually a friend of mine, Jill Barker, and she's an amateur birder, but very enthusiastic, and she's a member of the Arlington Master Naturalists. Um, I would say 90% chance it's one of these three birds that were at Huntley that ended up actually on the Anacostia River last weekend, and she ended up being the first to spot this the spoonbill that got away and got to Anacostia. I think it was somewhere close to Kingman Island, and it was DC's first record spoonbill. And DC being such a small land area, there's a lot of birds that haven't been seen there, but have been seen closely around DC. So having a spoonbill in DC, just it had to join the party. DC had to join the spoonbill party this year, and
That's right.
so we do strongly believe that it was one of these three birds that was spotted this past weekend in Washington, D.C. And to piggyback on what Larry mentioned about other southern birds that have also ventured north, we also have a wood stork that is currently hanging out in St. Mary's County, Maryland, so not too far away. So we've basically got Florida North going on right now. And actually just today, I was able to see a swallow-tailed kite on Kent Island, Maryland. So another southern species that is ventured north, though not a wader like these other birds. And so for those who are wondering, spoonbills are classified as closely related to ibises, and in the same order as herons as well. So they're they're more distantly related to herons, but closer related to ibises. So it's not unusual to see kind of those wading birds kind of all hanging together, and it could be, to keep an eye on each other in case there's a predator coming nearby. I remember last year specifically at Huntley Meadows, we had a lot of egrets and herons that were falling victim to snapping turtles. And I was able to actually witness one of these great egrets, helping out another one to get away from a snapping turtle. So while they can bicker, and as you mentioned, but between the spoonbills and the herons, there were some scuffles.
Well, you could see, you could even see in that video at one point when the spoonbill was just looking around, the heron was kind of like, "You're in my space," and the spoonbill was like, "Okay, okay," and get out of the way. So, that was a funny interaction.
They have their own.
Remember the natal area that they came from. They breed collectively. So in Florida, so you'll go into a rookery, and the spoonbills will be breeding alongside great egrets and stuff. So these birds wouldn't be strangers to them. They grew up.
Yeah, we lost that last part of what you said. Every once in a while, they grew up together. Is that what you said?
Yeah, they were raised in the same rookery. In the Florida, you'll see great egrets and spoonbills and stuff breeding nearby. So when these birds grew up, they're very familiar with other species that nested close by. Someone showed up at Huntley and saw a great egret. It's a species it's seen before. So, and it probably wasn't aggressive to it when they were growing up. So why would they think anything different?
Yeah, it's nature's at work. And Matt, we interrupted you. Can you continue what you were saying? I interrupted you.
It's okay, but yeah, I mean, like Larry said, they definitely they grow up very close together. I know that there's one place in Florida that really strikes home with me because I grew up going there. My grandparents, while they were alive, they lived in Delray Beach, Florida, and there's a very special park that is actually like a water retention pond area for the public works, and it's right there smack in the middle of a neighborhood in Florida. But Florida being a crazy place that it is for birds and other wildlife, I mean, you could have just a ton of breeding birds in a strange little spot. Just wherever they can find space, they will. And so it's called Wakatahatchee Wetlands in Delray Beach, and it's a tiny little area of only maybe 2 square miles, and you'll have wood storks having nests right in front of your face, maybe 6 feet away, and they're coming in hot, like right over your head, over the boardwalk, flying into the nest.
Wow.
Green heron, little blue heron, great blue heron, great egret, cattle egret, double-crested cormorant, and hinga. I'm probably missing a couple, but all of these birds are all breeding together right there.
Wow.
In a very small space. So Florida is something special, and as Larry said, it's these birds are all familiar with each other. Even if those particular egrets have never seen a spoonbill, because maybe these egrets are from, more like the mid-Atlantic coast or something like that, they are comfortable with each other. They know that they're not going to hurt one another. But that being said, the reason why you're seeing some of these scuffles is because they are very particular about their foraging territory. They don't want anyone to get in the way of where they're eating. So,
Right.
but if there's a predator that came over, they would all kind of be together and warn each other of said predator. So, again, they're still on the same team, but it doesn't mean that they want to. They're still prioritizing themselves. Birds are very about me,
Yeah.
but at the same time, they still are looking out for each other. One other behavior that I noted that I wanted to share, because I think beyond seeing exciting new birds for me, one of my favorite things to observe is interesting behavior that I may not have seen before. So one thing that really stood out to me when I went, and I believe I went on the very second day that the spoonbills were seen, and at that time I think there was only one. Um, but yes, I got all those alerts pinging me all day. I was out working, doing one of my Critter Corner programs out in Loudoun County, and I'm getting these alerts just blowing up my phone, and I'm just like, God, I got to get down there. But I wasn't able to make it until it was actually this very same day. So it was the same day, but I got to go after
You
work.
couldn't resist. You had to go check it out.
I had to go, so I got there right at sunset. It was beautiful. There was nobody there yet because the word hadn't gotten out yet, really. So at the time, I was only there with maybe 2 or 3 other people observing. And then the next time I went, it was like the otters were back. And I'm sure that'll come up in conversation again. It just felt like that, just like, wow, just everybody lining the boardwalk. It was crazy. But the behavior, I digress. The behavior that I wanted to share was I remember seeing the spoonbill picked up a stick and then flew to a perch. And then I saw an egret follow its lead and pick up a stick and follow it over to the spoonbill. Then the spoonbill was like walking along the shore with the stick in its beak, and then the egret followed. It was the oddest thing. I was like, what are they doing? I had no idea
Wow.
what this was. All I know is I saw it. I do believe I did get footage of this, but it was just one of the oddest things. That's the thing with birds. You'll always don't be surprised to be surprised. There's always time to see something new. Even with birds that you see on an everyday basis, you never know what you'll see them do.
Right. And it's so easy to take them for granted because, there's birds outside all the time. But really, when you do look at their behavior, just outside my office, my husband is a bird watcher. My mother-in-law loves watching birds as well. And we have bird feeders outside all of our windows. And some days I just can watch because there's a whole thing going on out there. It's like Peyton Place, right? I mean, it's like a soap opera. Who is letting who else come in and who's guarding it until their buddy comes over to get into the feeder. And, I mean, obviously I'm not holding a candle to Huntley Meadows Park, but it is fascinating to watch the behavior of the birds. There's such a hierarchy that is going on with them. It is, I'd never noticed it before until my husband pointed it out. So it was really fascinating. You mentioned other animals also at Huntley Meadows Park. Karen, are you thrilled about it? Is this normal? Are there any other animals that maybe aren't quite as photogenic and getting all the headlines that the spoonbill is getting that you're seeing at the park? Or is it just a beautiful, thriving, kind of everybody is doing what they're supposed to be doing right now?
Yeah, so the wetland is active, and some of the more regular creatures that you may come across during your visit are you can see raccoons sometimes during the day, but you can also more regularly see muskrats and dragonflies. Right now is a really good time to see dragonflies, turtles, frogs, fish in the water. And occasionally we do get otters every so often, and there was a great couple days of otters playing in
We
the
have lots of
water.
pictures of the otters. Jane loved the otters too.
Yes, very, very sweet. And yeah, so, and all of the different types of birds that come and visit. Huntley is always teeming with so much wildlife and so much going on, and just having the opportunity to stop and slow down and observe and look around and listen, because there is so many subtleties to Huntley Meadows. Some of the animals pop right out at you, and others you can stand right next to and not notice if you don't take the time to look around.
That's
So
true.
very, very fun place to be. And every visit is different. It's always changing.
Yeah, it really is. I've been lucky enough to go a few times. Jane, do these how do you get these amazing photographs?
Well, that's the funny thing about Huntley is you don't have to try. It's all happening out there all the time, exactly like Karen said. Every time it's something different. And really, we go through these seasons. Right now, we're really in the green tree frog season. So you will see a lot of great photos all the time of these very photogenic and charismatic little green tree frogs. In the spring, we have our ducklings, the warbler, we have the warbler migration happens. Everyone's out there in May for the warbler migration, which of course Larry and Matt know far more about. There's constantly interactions between different species of animals. It's just always happening. And when we had those the otters, which was late January, I mean, I haven't I don't have that much experience, but I can tell you like having the ability to photograph an otter playing on ice for hours. It literally went on for hours. We were exhausted. We wanted it to stop and just go away because we couldn't leave. It was extraordinary. And it's and people will say it. We say it all the time. It's the magic of Huntley Meadows, and it really is extraordinary. And it's all about that habitat that's been created by the county and protected by the county. It's what it's all
Yes.
about, and that's why that protection and preservation is critical, and our commitment to that is so important.
And I think so. And I think if for nothing else, I'm grateful that the Spoonbills' arrival and all the beautiful photography is showing what a gem Huntley Meadows really is. And, what a beautiful parkland it is and how successful the restoration was that Karen was mentioning earlier in the program. And I think we have to give credit here to Norma Hoffman, who really led the citizens. She was an activist, in preserving the park. They wanted to build a highway through the park, and she led a citizens group in the late 70s or the mid 70s, I believe, and successfully kept the road, and it's never been built. And Huntley Meadows is now more successful than it's ever been, I think, and more. I think it's wetland efforts and it's hospitality. That's not the word I'm trying to say. It's hospitable. Sorry,
Oh,
I can't talk
yes, no,
anymore.
that's okay. But,
It's
but
it. Go ahead.
I also think that there is a lot of thanks and gratitude that goes out to the visitors as well. One of the reasons why the wildlife watching is so good there is that we do have rules that are restrictive that allow the wildlife to feel comfortable and feel safe, even though there are visitors on the boardwalk. So, for example, pets are not allowed on the boardwalk because many pets to birds are viewed as predators and other animals in the wetland. And so, by by keeping your pet off the boardwalk, it helps maintain that safe feeling that wildlife has, and
Mm-hmm.
also not running on the boardwalk. The boardwalk is supported by the pillars, and running creates a lot of vibration, and that scares a lot of animals feeling that vibration in the water. So there may seem like there are a lot of rules for the boardwalk. However, those rules and everyone who obeys those rules makes the magic of Huntley Meadows happen because the wildlife can feel safe.
That's an excellent point, Karen. I'm glad you brought that up. I actually love when I go there how quiet it is, and I love, I mean, humanly quiet. The humans are quiet, thank goodness, because the sound is gorgeous. I mean, all the frogs and all the bird song overhead, and the frogs, and it just kind of echoes across the water. It's just such a beautiful, beautiful place, and it's right in the middle of suburban Northern Virginia, but you kind of forget that you're in such a densely populated area when you're in Huntley Meadows. I mean, it's just beautifully protected.
One thing I wanted to add here, now that we're talking about this, and is accessibility of Huntley Meadows, and how people of all economic backgrounds can access it, where a lot of other wild areas are more difficult for people to get to. And so I think it really is eye-opening for low-income families to be able to go out and enjoy nature and really get to cherish and enjoy special wildlife so close to the city, right next to public transportation. Anyone can go to Huntley Meadows, and it's also accessible, for people with physical handicaps to be able to access the trail and boardwalk. So I think that is one of the most special things about it. Not only are you going to see a variety and of species and biodiversity so close to Washington, D.C., but again, anyone can go there. And I think that is, to me, the most special thing about the park.
I agree.
Yes, thank you, Matt.
Yeah, I think that's really well said, and it is so accessible, and there are programs there. I think I had mentioned one program that's coming up in August. The drawing is a sketch program, and because there is the park itself could be considered a work of art, really. But there's a sketch walk there. It was that on, I believe it's August 13th, but you can easily go onto the park website. And is that, can you give us that website, Karen? Although if you search Fairfax County Park Authority and look under Huntley Meadows Park, all the information that you want about the programs and about the hours when it's open next is all online. And can you tell us about the visitor center? I know it's open on weekends. Is that true?
Yes, so currently the visitor center is open on weekends from 9 to 1. And during the weekdays, just right now, it's closed during the week. Yeah, and we do have, and the park is free to visit. There is no fee for coming into the park or for parking. So that's another great aspect of the park as well. There are so many programs coming up. If you want to learn more about photography, if you want to learn more about drawing, if you want to take nature walks, if you just want to learn more about wildlife, there is just a plethora of openings and programs to join in the coming months.
There are. We have a question here. Somebody wants to know, where is the location, Bridget Brown. Thank you so much for your question. It is at, I believe it's 3701 Lockheed Boulevard in Alexandria. But again, if you just go online, you can just search Huntley Meadows Park, and the Fairfax County Park Authority website will pop up, and you can get all the information there, as well as some of the programs that Karen was just mentioning. So
if I may, I'd like to put in a plug.
Please.
There's two parts of Huntley Meadows, the main entrance, and then the one on Telegraph Road, which is, as the Bluebird guy, I spend most of my time back there. And it's called Huntley Meadows, and for a reason. There's a lot of open space and mixed woodland in the back that offers a great opportunity to see migrants both in spring and fall, as well as bluebirds. I still have some active bluebird boxes in there. So you have the marsh and you have that wooded area. So I would recommend, for if you ever, and you won't, but if you ever happen to want to change your pace from the marsh, take a trip to the backside, and you'll find it very rewarding.
That's excellent, Larry. I'm so glad that you interjected with that, because I neglected to mention that. I will mention one other part is the historic Huntley, which is the entrance is on Lockheed Boulevard, just down about a half a mile, I think, from the main entrance. And that was also highlighted in our article on the zebra this month. And again, you can read about it online, but it's really a charming compound, if you will, up there, up on the hills, beautiful views in the background, and dates back to, I believe, the early 1800s when that was built. So, and that's available. You hold camps up there, right, Karen?
Summer camps, and we also have tours on Saturdays.
Well, terrific. So if anybody wanted to see that. Well, I just want to thank you all so very much for coming. I want to thank everybody for tuning in and watching tonight. What a interesting show. I appreciate your professional expertise, all of you, and in sharing your gifts with us, Jane, especially your photographs. Thank you so much. It was a real honor and privilege to be able to show them tonight while we were talking. Larry and Matt, thank you for bringing your particular expertise. And Karen, of course, thank you so much for your time with the interview and for coming on tonight. What a wonderful show this was. And hopefully maybe we'll run into you at Huntley Meadows one of these days. All right, guys, take care.
Right.
Okay. All right, well, that's going to do it for tonight's episode of ZTV Live. Thank you so much for tuning in. It was just really great to, again, you can read more about the Spoonbills on our Zebra August issue or on the zebra.org online. You can read the articles there. Follow us on Facebook, and we always are posting our articles there. So that's going to do it for ZTV tonight. Please tune in tomorrow night. Elisa Kovac will be back with Make It Alexandria, and that starts at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. And then next week, of course, we start the week off with Living on Music, and we have some great shows after that. So keep posted to our Facebook page for all the upcoming videos and everything else we're doing. We just love to hear from you, so please give us your input. And remember, as much as you can, to be the good news in someone's life.